Howdy folks, and welcome to the first episode of this new season of the Rochester Indie Musician Spotlight series. We took a little bit of a hiatus this past summer, but we're back with brand new episodes showcasing Rochester's great musical talent. Now, if this whole area looks a little bit familiar, it should. We are very happy to announce that we are filming in Bop Shop Records this season. Yeah, Heather's very excited about it. So I met up with Tom a while ago, and he agreed. He was very gracious in letting us do this in this local and creative space that will help us to better serve you, the audience, and our guests as well. And for those who don't know, Bop Shop Records is located in Brighton, New York, and is your home for blues, jazz, and Americana in vinyl for the past 35 years. Whenever you come in, just say hey to Tom, Jen, or any one of their knowledgeable and helpful employees, and they'll get you squared away. Joining me for this very exciting first episode is Heather Taylor. She is a songstress that splits her time between solo performance and cooking out with the crawdaddies. With her axe at her side, which I just learned was called an octo mandolin.
Octave mandolin.
Octave mandolin.
Right.
See, octo was too cool. I knew that couldn't have been right.
Well, now it is. Now it's octo mandolin.
With her axe at her side, Heather distills the open vocals of bluegrass with a tight vibrato and blends them with folk sounds and modern sensibilities to create a real, genuine vibe. She's releasing a solo album Thursday, September 8th. She's having a big release party at the Little Theater. And this new release is entitled House of Healing. Heather, thanks for joining us today.
That's all right.
Well, all right. Good start. We're off to a good start. The first show, I got through it in one take. We're good.
I'm very humbling. Thank you.
It is our pleasure. So, just quickly, yesterday, you did this little show with Witter, which is a radio station, RIT, for those who don't know. They did this cute little performance setting, Folk You. Mm-hmm. You heard that correctly. So just tell us briefly about that. What was that experience like getting together with all the folk cats in Rochester?
It was really cool. I've never done anything like that before. Mm-hmm. With the folk scene, because I don't know why, but it was really neat to get to be a part of that and to be a part of like all the people that have been doing their songwriting stuff and the folk stuff for so long, and at such a young age too. There's a lot of love coming out from like the folk scene in Rochester, and like the audience was really beautiful. They were listening. It was really hot because it was a summer day. Yeah. And then also there was an indoor stage and an outdoor stage. So but everybody made it through beautifully. Everybody was like so polite. Mm-hmm. The heat was funny. I'm like, I'm not going to mention the heat at all. Like, I don't want to draw attention to it.
And then that was like the first thing you did?
I said was some inappropriate comment about sweaty places,
So you can find out about this event. Just search Facebook. By the time this episode airs, it'll happen. It's already happened for a while, but we know it was especially hot because Jon Lewis, the man about town, Jon Lewis Band solo act. He's also Mr. Loops. If we have any young audience members, I doubt we do, but that's who that is. I know he was accompanying you.
Yeah.
And Susanna Rose was there as well, so it was a cool event.
Empty Woods, Apollo 11. Yeah, there is
all the big cats.
Yep.
So you kind of mentioned this right in your answer. You said you've been in folk for a long time. So if you could tell us maybe just a little bit about your early life. Did you have any formal musical training? And it almost sounds like your love of folk came very early. So where did the singing and guitar playing come in?
So that is actually opposite. So
Okay.
I had formal training, but I went to the Crane School of Music. My parents both went to Eastman, so that's why I'm in Rochester. Then my sister went to Crane, I went to Crane, and I went on flute performance. So I went for classical flute. And then after classical, college, I realized that I just wasn't really cut out for the classical scene, and went traveling. It's very stressful. Yeah, it's and you know, I give credit to everybody in it and like who loves it, but it just wasn't my thing. So I went traveling and discovered like music on a whole different level. So I think when I was 23, after I graduated from school, I went to Europe, and then I found people like just busking on the street that just like were doing music, just folk music and all other sorts of things just for the love of it. And it just like really opened my heart towards music in general for on this side of the fence. And guitar has always kind of been like a beast that I'm like, oh, I can't do that.
Right.
So I started playing flute with a blues band, with the Crawdaddies before it became the Crawdaddies. And then I started singing, and I'm like, oh, wow, okay, singing is kind of fun. Let's do singing.
Yeah.
And then I picked up the mandolin, and then I picked up the octave mandolin. So then I started songwriting with the Crawdaddies and then doing my own songwriting in the last couple years.
Strong, moving all down, shedding all this light, reminding the dark. She is not helpless, she feels it. She understands to understand her dance.
So the sound that you've eventually settled on is kind of this folk-driven sound. You didn't specifically mention it in that answer, but folk is so. It's really easy for someone who plays either a mandolin or a guitar to kind of settle into that sound, and a lot of people are doing it. And especially in the Rochester scene, we have a lot of great folk artists.
Totally.
So, how did you kind of take that experience when you were out in Europe, just kind of taking in life and hearing these people just playing on the streets, and maybe some of your own musical influences? What drove you to play this sound? What did you discover in yourself that led you to folk?
Wow, that's
I know it's a
good
big question. It's a big one.
I think it was a very organic process. It was just kind of like puddle jumping into folk, really.
Yeah.
And buying the octave mandolin, I think it has more, like it has like a crunchy tone to it a little bit. And I think before that, the last puddle with the Crawdaddies, gosh, it was like, it just went from seeing the local scene of Rochester and like how incredible it was, and then exploring the scene, and then just like landed into the lap of folk.
Yeah.
I don't know, and then just like started to meet people around, and just fell in love with different acoustic players, and the intimate vibe that it creates too. I think that's probably what I love the most about folk, is that it's very real.
Opposite. It's very opposite
there.
of classical, where there's this kind of, you're up on stage, you're very stiff, and there's sort of this barrier between.
There is a barrier
between you and the audience. Yeah. So you're getting all of this organic process happen. You're just kind of out and about. You're out playing. You're seeing what the local people were doing as well. So you've mentioned sort of the beginning of the Crawdaddies. You were just kind of playing folk. You were just playing flute with them. Excuse me. So how did? And you said you were playing flute with them before they were the Crawdaddies. So how did the band come about? How did it become an entity?
Well, there is a jam called Sun House Blues Night. I think it was back in 2010, and I just walk into the place. I had my flute in my trunk in the car. I was just checking it out. And so at Sun House Blues Night, there's a few people. Gordon Munding was running it at the time, and he's a local player, really great guy, really great musician. And he has his hand in like the scene, and like he just knows a bunch of people. So he played with now my bandmates Jay and Dave, and then we just I think we all got on the stage one day, and then And then something just like clicked in Gordon's head, and he's like, okay, well, let's do something here. And then, so then I was just gonna play flute, and then I, you know, came and asked them if I could sing a song, and they're like, okay, well, you're gonna transition into the singer, or like singer half the time for this. Did I answer your question?
You did.
Okay,
good. So you gave me a good transition. So as you were moving from the flautist to the singer, how did you develop a songwriting process? Because you came from playing the flute in a very strict classical setting to I'm singing now, and I'm playing a strummed instrument. So what was the process of you figuring out how to be a songwriter, and eventually how did you know if a song was, okay, Heather Taylor's going to do this solo, or is this a Crawdaddy's tune? So how did it come from, okay, let me figure out just how to write a song, and then what's the decision process between a solo act and a Crawdaddy's tune?
So with the Crawdaddy's, I have a partner writer. So we kind of collaborated when I first started writing tunes, and I'm like, well, okay, I can do lyrics, I can do melody. I'm made on flute. I'm made for melody, you know,
Right.
and then going to singing, also melody. So, and lyrics, they come to me a lot. But I didn't have the groove, you know. So Ben Horavich, he's the banjo player. He just like, it was just like a perfect, you know, union for songwriting. So eventually, like, I learned a lot from him. I learned a lot from, you know, other resources. And then I learned how to like do it on here or on the smaller mandolin. And oh man, it was difficult. It was really difficult at first, like to like have the melody and like to have, you know, have this, you know, beast, the groove, like the thing that drives the music, to be like, hey, you have to learn how to do this too, and it's like
at the same time
hard, yeah. But you know, I mean, it's been slow, but it's been fun, and I figured out how to do it. And then distinction between the Crawdaddy's tunes and my tunes. The Crawdaddy's have a very set sound, blues, Americana, bluegrass. And then the songs that were coming out are a little bit more personal and a little less like storytelling about. I write storytelling songs kind of with the Crawdaddy's, and these songs are a little bit more introspective and a little bit more folky, a little bit. So then it's very clear when there's a Crawdaddy's tune versus a Heather Taylor tune.
You mentioned storytelling and the introspection are kind of the key elements of what you do. So in researching for this interview, I kind of have come across that healing seems, and finding a place of self-centeredness, I don't mean that in the selfish sense, but just kind of finding your center. These seem to be common themes, and I know that you're also a licensed massage therapist and you have your own practice as well. How did this sense of healing and the introspection and finding your center sort of come through in your music? What developed that, and then how did it make its way into your music?
They're very tied together. Just right from the beginning. When in classical school, I wasn't very in touch with myself, my body, and then I ended up getting hurt. I could hardly even like lift my flute. You know, like it was tingling, numbness and stuff, and you're like, what? It's a flute.
Right?
How do you do that? And so I'm like, oh, okay, well, I guess I'm done with it. But I'm glad that wasn't the end of the story. But so I just like found massage therapy, and then I just realized it was like muscular, and like it was through stress that was creating all this tension in my body. And so then I went to massage school, and then I created, and while I was going to massage school, I was learning how to sing in front of people, and then learning how to, you know, just be relaxed during performance. Like, so it was just like, it was all just very hand in hand, and it was really cool. So now then I look back, and then it's really, I started my massage practice for musicians that more were in the place where I was with the mindset of like, oh, massage is a luxury or something, but like massage and healing and, you know, all these things to make you more of a relaxed centered person, it really aids in the music, performance and creating, all of it. So, yeah.
It sounds like this new release, House of Feeling, is kind of a culmination of all this stuff.
Totally.
And you're formalizing it. So, really briefly, what was the process for you? Was this a concept album? Did you know you wanted to do something in this theme, or did you just, all of these songs that I happen to write fit under this? How did it come about?
Yeah. None of my answers are brief, but I'll try.
That's okay.
Okay, so no, it wasn't a concept album. But it's always been a concept for me for like art and music to be kind of like a self-healing, you know, thing, you know, self-therapy. So basically when all these songs came together, as I looked back on the last couple of years, I was doing paintings, I was doing art, I was doing music, I was writing these songs. So all of them, it was just like, oh wow, in the last 2 years, I've really come a long way personally. So it was just obvious what to name the album after all these are. So the album, there are some songs on there that's kind of introspective and like nice, but I wouldn't call them healing or anything. They're maybe for me, maybe for me writing them and stuff, but
yeah.
Yeah.
Heather, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank
This was
you.
a lot of fun. Great first episode.
Cool.
So if you enjoyed the interview today, we hope that you have. You can check out Heather's release party. It's going to be Thursday, September 8th. She is prepared. The lady is prepared. Thursday, September 8th at the Little Theater. It starts at 5 p.m.
5 o'clock music at 5:15 for a half hour.
Excellent. So you can pick up your copy there. Where else can the people at home find your music?
Bop Shop Records.
Plug. She's learning TV already.
iTunes. Yeah.
iTunes is the big one? Okay. So Heather, thanks again for joining us. We appreciate it. She's going to play us off with a couple tunes. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time on the Rochester Indie Musician Spotlight. Have a good one.
Thank you. Bye. In what spirit do you drink me in? In what spirit do you when nobody seems to be there? We're living in a daydream. 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 In what spirit do you take the plunge? In what spirit do you love? In what spirit do you call my name? Is it spirit from above? We're living in a daydream. We're living in a daydream. Living in a daydream. We're living in a daydream.
know it's gonna work out. In what spirit do you? 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 Thinking about what I say to you. You were right in front of me. Would you let me set the scene? Could I look at you lovingly? I love you. I see you. Before we met, I knew I was set to be with you. I was set to be with you. Stronger in your presence. The way you stop and care. In my memory, your face. Push away just a beautiful grace. I love you. I see you. Before we met, I knew I was set to be with you. I was set to be with you. When I mean anything to you, it means something to me. After you're gone, I'll still be here, thinking about how to make it clear. Thinking about how to make it clear. Nothing lasts forever still. Always fades away. Can we clean the slate? No push, no hate, just a beautiful grace. I love you. I see you. Before we met, I knew I was set to be with you. I was set to be with you. No push, no hate, just a beautiful